Getting smaller and looking sculpted are not the same thing, and most people find that out too late. After 2,500 liposuction procedures, the mistakes I see most often don't happen during surgery. They get locked in before it starts. In this video, I'm walking you through the mistakes that can leave you looking worse than before you started, and how to tell in 10 minutes whether your surgeon thinks in shapes or just in suctioning, and the one question to ask before you book anything. So the first thing to understand is that fat removal isn't the same as sculpting. Most people walk in believing that body contouring is basically a removal job. The more fat the surgeon takes out, the better and more dramatic your result will be. So success is really about volume removed. And it makes complete sense because the before and afters that go viral are always the biggest changes. And the whole way we talk about it is the language of taking away. You hear remove, reduce, get rid of, so it's natural to assume that the more removed equals more improvement. Taking fat out and creating a beautiful shape, though, are two completely different skills. You can remove a lot of fat and still leave a body that looks flat, boxy, or strangely deflated because nobody was thinking about the curves and proportions that really make a body look good. Removal is the easy part. Any surgeon can suction fat out of a spot. But leaving behind a shape you actually want is the hard part, and it's the part that gets skipped. Getting smaller and looking sculpted are not the same thing. You can pay to lose the fat and still walk out without the shape you came in for. Now, if removal isn't the result, then something else has to be. And that something is the whole reason a few surgeons get a very different outcome from the same body. So let me show you what they're actually doing different. The real work is sculpting. A good result comes from deciding what shape you want first and then removing fat selectively in the right places, in the right amounts, to carve and shape into the body. The fat that leaves is in service of the form that stays. You're not emptying an area, you're shaping and contouring it. Digging a hole and carving a statue are not the same job. A backhoe can move a huge pile of dirt in an afternoon, and that's impressive, but nobody calls that art. The sculptor removes less material and thinks about every contour and removal because the goal was never to remove the most, it was to reveal underlying form. So contouring done well is closer to the second, where the question isn't how much can I take, it's what am I trying to create? So you stop grading your results or the photos you're looking at by how much fat disappeared, and you start asking the only question that actually predicts whether you'll love it, which is what shape the surgeon is planning to build. And once you see contouring as shaping instead of emptying, the next mistake gets obvious because sometimes the way to build the shape you want is to add, not take away. So half of the art is putting volume back. People assume the entire procedure runs in one direction. Fat's the enemy, so the whole job is subtraction. And a good outcome just means less of you in all the places you don't want it. It's spread because for years, that genuinely was the limit of what most surgeons offered. You came in with too much somewhere, they took it out, end of story. And emotionally, when you're unhappy with your body, removal is what your brain reaches for. So the idea of adding volume sounds backwards. But a balanced natural shape is about proportions, and proportions sometimes mean an area doesn't have too much, it actually has too little. The dents on the outer hips that a lot of people call hip dips or flat sides on the buttocks aren't fixed by removing anything. They're actually fixed by filling them in. And the part that ties it together is this, that fat removed from one area can be cleaned, purified, and grafted into the area that was deficient. So treating the body as removal only means you leave half your tools on the table. So if your surgeon only knows how to take away, they can only fix half of the problem. Some of the shape you want's on the other side of the equation, and pure suction's never gonna get you there. So that changes what you should even be asking for in a consultation, and explains why two people in the same amount of fat removed can walk away looking nothing alike. So stay with me because this is the difference between a body that's smaller and a body that's actually balanced. The right approach reads the whole body and moves volume around to create harmony. Takes fat from where there's excess, adds it back where the body is deficient, and the result is curves that look like they were always supposed to be there. And that's what separates suctioning from sculpting. Suctioning only goes in one direction, but sculpting goes in both, and it treats your removed fat as material to build with, not just waste to throw away. So a good photo retoucher doesn't just erase, they also dodge, burn, lighten here, deepening there, because believable shapes need both parts. You pull back and the parts you build up. Lean only on the eraser and the picture is going to look flat and obviously edited. Body contouring is the same. Bodies that look natural got worked on in both directions. So you stop walking into the consultation with a list of things to delete, and you start thinking about your whole silhouette, including the spots that might need volume added, which is a completely different and much better conversation to be in. So how do you know if you're about to make these mistakes yourself? Well, there are a few tells, and they show up before you ever even schedule anything. If this is already changing how you see your own body in the mirror, do me a favor, hit subscribe. I put out honest, no-spin breakdowns like this for people trying to make real decisions about a procedure, and subscribing is how the next one reaches you when you actually need it. So are you set up for a bad result? So picture your last consultation or the one you've been rehearsing in your head. You point at one spot you've hated for years, and the surgeon nods, looks only at that spot, quotes you a price for treating that spot. Whole conversation stays inside one area. You never once talked about how that area relates to everything around it or what your overall shape would look like afterwards. That's the pattern that produces the disappointing results. When the focus is one isolated area, goal gets framed as a number or amount of fat, plan is built around removal instead of around your silhouette and contour. So people come in fixated on one spot without understanding how that spot connects to the areas around it. And a surgeon who plays along with that is the one most likely to leave you smaller, but also shapeless. So when you imagine your result, is your goal mostly to be smaller, or can you actually describe the shape you want? In your consultation, did the surgeon look at and talk about your whole body and how the areas are connected and interrelated, or only the one spot you pointed to? Are you focused on a number, like how much fat gets removed, how many areas, instead of overall proportions you're trying to create? Is your goal just smaller and the conversation stays locked in one area? Or are you tracking an amount instead of a shape? You're set up for exactly the result that this video is about. None of that means you're wrong to want the procedure. It just means that the plan needs to widen out before anyone operates. If the surgeon was already pulling your eye to the whole silhouette, then that's a very good sign you're probably in the right hands. Now, the mistake I warned you about at the start, and the one that doesn't just disappoint you, but can actually make things worse and cost you a second surgery. Lipo can't tighten skin or solve weight problems. So this is the turn I promised you, and it's the most expensive mistake in body contouring, is using the wrong tool for the tissue, and it usually looks something like this. Liposuction removes fat, and it's very good at that, but it can't tighten loose skin, and it isn't a weight loss procedure. If your real issue is skin that's lost its stretch, and a surgeon suctions the fat out from underneath it, you can end up looking softer and more deflated than before, because now there's even less filling that loose skin out. And if you're well above a healthy weight for your frame, lipo is the wrong starting move altogether, because it's built to remove stubborn pockets, not pounds. So the honest candidate for great lipo is someone within a striking distance of their ideal weight, with decent skin tone and muscle tone. And when the tool doesn't match the problem, you don't just fail to improve, you can move backwards and need a second operation, a skin removal procedure, to undo where the first one left you. Loose skin behaves like a fitted sheet on a bed. So when the bed's full and made, the sheet pulls tight and looks clean. Start removing the mattress underneath and the sheet doesn't shrink to keep up, it just bunches and sags. Because the sheet was never the thing holding the shape, the volume under it was. So skin that's lost its elasticity behaves the same way. Pull the fat out from under it and it has nothing to drape over. The fix for loose skin is removing skin, not removing more of what was filling it. So stop assuming liposuction is the answer just because fat is the thing that you can see and grab. The visible problem isn't always the real problem, and matching the procedure to the wrong one is what sends people back for surgery number 2. So start by getting an honest read on whether your issue is fat, loose skin, or weight, and demand that your surgeon tell you which one they're actually treating. If the honest answer is that your skin won't bounce back or that you're not at the right weight yet, a good surgeon will tell you that before they ever pick up a cannula. And all this comes down to one thing you can do tonight to tell a real sculptor from someone who only knows how to suction, and to keep yourself out of every trap in this video. So how to spot a sculptor before you book. Every mistake in this video traces back to the same root, which is a plan built around one area in one direction instead of around your whole shape. So the way to protect yourself isn't learning more anatomy, it's learning to tell a sculptor from a suctioner before you hand anyone your money. A surgeon who thinks in whole silhouettes, asks different questions, looks at more of you, and is willing to tell you when liposuction is the wrong move. That mindset's the thing that actually predicts your result far more than any single tool or technique. So for you, that means walking into a consultation able to spot in about 10 minutes whether you're sitting with a sculptor or a suctioner. And that's the single best protection against wasting thousands of dollars in a recovery on a result that you don't love. Tonight, before you book anything, get ahead of all of it with a short list. Write down one honest sentence describing the shape you want, not the areas you want gone. So you walk in leading with contour instead of a removal list. Prepare 3 questions to ask out loud. Will you look at my whole body and how the areas are interrelated? Will you add volume back to areas that are deficient? Is my problem fat, loose skin, or weight? Gather 2 or 3 reference photos of bodies whose shape you admire so the conversation is about form, not about how much comes off. Confirm the surgeon's board certified and ask specifically about their training and experience in contouring and definition, not just their volume of liposuction cases. So you know you're sitting with someone who sculpts. Almost none of these results that disappoint people get ruined in the operating room. They get ruined far earlier in the decision to treat contouring as fat removal instead of shape creation. So in judging the body as one isolated spot at a time instead of as a interconnected contour and silhouette. And once you see your body as a whole shape worth designing, you stop being the easy target for the very mistakes that wreck most results. Now, if the question underneath all of this for you is really which procedure you even need, whether your issue is something liposuction can fix at all, or whether you're actually looking at something else, I'm not gonna cram that into here. There's already a video on this channel called Liposuction versus Tummy Tuck, which one do you actually need? And it walks you through exactly what each one does and when you need them. It's linked right here, so if you're still not sure which lane you're in, watch that one next.